Hello makers, I'm here to talk about this project that I made for the Tim Holtz Sizzix 2022 Christmas holiday release. And I thought this would be just a fun little project to make with Tree and Stump because I think they're super fun. And I thought it would be, fun to have them making an absolute mess of decorating the Christmas tree. And so that's what this project really is mainly about. I only used 2 of the new releases on it, so it's fairly affordable to make. And let's go ahead and get started talking about what you need to make this and how I put it together. For this project, I'm mainly going to be focusing on the 3D rings embossing folder, and I just love all the detail of that tree ring that they got in this folder. So I'm going to be using this and all the dies, well, many of the dies from the Twig and Stump die set, and there are a lot of dies in this set. So each snowman has a couple of different directions that they can be looking, but Stump actually can be looking up and then he can be looking to either side. Then you have the brown paper packages, snowflakes, you've got scarves, you've got carrot noses, the little bucket hat, you've got your sign, the Christmas tree, all the Christmas balls, and then the star. And that adds up to be a lot of dies. Now, the wonderful thing about this is that, of course, you don't have to do this scene. You don't have to use snowmen at all. You could just use packages in the tree. You could just use the tree. You could just use the sign. It's really so many variations that can go on with this, and with the fact that you can make the snowmen looking different ways. You can set up all kinds of fun scenes. So I'm going to be focusing on these 2. As I try to make a winter scene, I'm going to use a vignette square box, and I'm going to try and just make a little scene with the 2 of them attempting to put lights on the Christmas tree. So that I want to show you how I made this wood covering, which is actually just strips of paper that I put on a vignette square. But I am just amazed at this tree ring 3D embossing folder and how much texture there is. And it's very simple to make it like this weathered wood color. I started with this kind of pumice stone gray. It's a brownish gray or beigeish gray colored Cardstock from Tim Holtz Ideology. And I began by cutting it at, let's see, it was 4.5 because these are 9 inches long. So I cut it at 4.5, so then I had 6 pieces. And you also want the Distress Archival in Ground Espresso. So that's the color that you want. You want the 3D embossing folder, 3D tree rings 666049. And when you open it up, the thinner side is the side that causes the rings to be raised. And then the wider side, which I call the top, is the part that has the raised areas that will become the indentions. And you're going to want to put the archival ink on the side that has the raised indentions and the raised rings so that that color goes down into those areas, those depressed areas. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to use, you can do this in either your Big Shot fold away, which is what I have here, or you can put it in your shift or vagabond, whatever die cutting, regular die cutting that you have. So you want your platform, just the regular platform. You do not need the Thinlits adapter for it, so you just want your regular platform. And if you follow the things on top of the platforms, it will tell you what what it will do. And so you can see 3D textured impressions, and that's what we have. So you want this, and you only want one cutting plate, okay, or cutting mat. So I'm going to take, and so I do this first. I want to wet it so that it doesn't tear my paper. And so I wet it on the back with my sprayer, and I wet it a couple of times. So, and then I just set it aside. Now, I just sprayed all over this, so I want to be sure that this isn't wet. But take your ground espresso archival ink, and I'm going to do it this way. So you want to get ink on all those raised areas. So those are the big cracks, but I also want it on the rings. And so I take kind of the edge, and I go ahead and I just go down with the corner. And you want to get all those rings. You can even do the end like this if you want. And then the closer into the center, I really try and get those little triangles of the center rings with the corner. Keep going around with either the corner or the entire end, getting all of those rings covered with archival. Okay, I'm almost done. So it doesn't take too long, but you know, I like to be thorough. Okay, that's good. And then I'm gonna go back over the raised areas one more time. Put my lid back on. I'm gonna take the piece that I sprayed on the back, and I'm going to lay it on that other side, the thinner side. So I'm gonna lay it on there. And then I'm going to close this. I'm going to put it on a bit of an angle, and you want to keep it within the cutting, you know, the platform, but on a bit of an angle. Put your plate on top, and then you're going to run it through, and you can run it through once. I still am running mine through 3 times, so that's 1. And then back through 2, because the pressure on this Big Shot fold away is really, really good. And 3. Okay. Now I'm gonna pull it out, and look at that. Isn't that amazing? It just looks like old weathered wood. I love it. Now this is archival, and so you can see that it's still wet in some areas where it's shiny. So I would go through and dry that with a heat gun to make sure it's completely dry. And then to make this cover, I just cut it into 1.5 inch strips and put it on. I put the top same 1.5 inch strips to make it look like they were solid blocks, and then solid all the way down on the edges. I cut 1/4 inch strips to go around the front, and then of course I needed to do another one so that I could have some strips in the back and on the bottom to cover with that. And I thought I would show you, before I decided to go the weathered wood direction, I had done some of one of the brown papers with the Distress archival ground espresso, and I just really think that looks so amazing too, doesn't it? And it's so fast and so easy. And then you can see that I did go over it once I got it on. I went over it with my sanding block, and I just sanded away some of that raised area to reveal. It happens very easily, and it reveals some of that Cardstock that's on the back. And then you can put some Distress ink on it, which is what I did here, and that also makes it look like wood, because you've got some of the brown, you've got some of the gray that's weathered, and then that ground espresso turns kind of a dark gray on this paper, which is pretty cool. So that's how I used the 3D embossing tree rings die, or texture fade, to make the cover of my vignette box. All right, so continue with the Twig and Stumpy project. So this is Twig and Stumpy, and I have cut out the snowflakes from the new Christmas two-tone paper, which I love. It has that just light gray grain with the white, so I love that. So I cut and you probably can't tell too much, but I can tell. So so those are cut out of wood grain, and those are going to kind of go on the back here. Twig and Stumpy, I also cut out of that, and then I cut 3 pieces out of just the white, distressed white heavy stock, and glued them together. And I used a black marker to color in where the eyes and buttons go, and I did that on both of them. And so I will be adhering this to the top. The nice thing about the arms is that they cut 3 at a time so that they are able to hold something, and you can layer all 3 at the same time. You cut them at the same time, so you don't have to cut 3 times. So I liked that. So they are going to be working on holding the multi-Christmas lights from last year from Ideology, and they're going to be using these lights for the tree. They're going to be decorating the tree. So I cut the hat and the scarf out of these, and these have been colored with the different mica stains. This is Halloween, and these are 2 of the new Christmas mica stains, so I'll talk about those and link them. And then I also used the mica stains and the distress stains to color some of that two-tone Christmas wood grain. So it still has the gray in the background, but it's got a little bit of color. And I cut the Christmas tree baubles out of that. So I'll be decorating the Christmas tree with those. And I cut the star out for the top of the tree. And I also cut a sign that I'm going to hang down. This is Winter Wishes. I also have my little noses cut out, so I'll be adding noses. So at this point, I'm just assembling, and then I'm going to start getting my little guys in there. I also cut enough trees so that if I wanted, I could maybe cut it and have a small one and a medium one over in this corner, and then the full-size one over here that they are decorating. So that's where we're going here. So I've done quite a few things since I checked in the last time, and so I had the box completely covered. So in the bottom of the box, because I wanted to put the tree and a few other trees, I just did the little technique where I cut just by hand with the scissors. I just cut out something that looks like a little snowdrift. I added a little bit of the grit paste Snowfall on top of it. And these I actually cut out of the gray two-tone wood grain from Tim and Ranger. I really love this color. So I used it quite a bit on here because I cut also, as I said, I cut the snowflakes out of that. I also cut the snowmen, Twig and Stump, out of that. I cut Twig's hat out of it, which you'll notice is kind of a blue color. And if you look carefully at the tree, you can see that the baubles look like they are striped. And that is because I colored the gray two-tone wood grain with some distress stain and distress mica stain. And so these are the 3 colors that I did, and I don't know if you can see the shimmer, but they're very shimmery in real life. So this was a little bit of festive berries and picked raspberry, and then I went over it with some Cocktail Party distress mica stain from the 2022 release. The yellow was mustard seed, distress stain, and harvest moon. That's from the Halloween mica stain release. And then the blue was salty ocean, and then a little bit of shiny bauble. mica stain on top of it. And so that's how I did that. And I just love the way it gives that wood grain. It's a fun, you know, kind of colorful wood grain to use together with, you know, kind of this rustic. So I like the fact that there's a little bit of shine, but it's also still very rustic. I cut a couple of, actually several trees out so that I had some options. So this tree I layered and then I kind of folded it up a little bit, put some baubles, put some baubles in behind there. This obviously isn't dry yet. And then the shiny, shimmery star at the top there. So you can see I just kind of stuck it together and then went ahead and pulled that up. I put some chipboard on the back, and then I'm going to attach that again. And then I need to do a couple of things. So I'll fix that in a minute. One thing I'm going to do is drill a hole back here. I will be putting the Mini Lights battery pack here. And then remember, I'm using the multi-light, and I'm going to run that through their arms. So they're going to be in here, and I'm going to run it through their arms and then onto the tree. So they kind of look like they're chaotically decorating the tree. And then I'll have some just kind of laying down in front of the tree. And last but not least, I will probably be drilling a hole through the wood here and then onto the front, and I will be tacking this on with the tack nails that says Winter Wishes. And I'm going to put it straight. I totally want to put it a little unstraight, but I'm going to do it straight because I think that would drive Tim crazy if it was just a little askew. So that's how that's going to go. So I hope that answers any questions as to how I put this together. I know that when I left off, I was still going to be putting the lights on the project. And so I went ahead and I drilled a hole in the bottom back here. I had a few extra little bits of the wood grain. And so I made a little box to hold the battery pack, and then I hot glue gunned it down. You can still see there's some hot glue over here, but I glued it down to cover up the long thick wire that comes out. And then it just comes in, I don't know if you can even see, but it comes in right back behind Tree and Stump in the background. And then I just kind of wound it around my finger and up, and wound it around his one arm, and then wound it around his back arm and up to Stump's arms, and then again just around, you know, the tree and kind of the ground down here, so that it just looks like it's an absolute mess. If the lights are off, it still kind of looks like an absolute mess, but it's a lot of wire looking, but it still kind of looks fun because it goes with the color theme. The other thing that I really enjoyed working with and just kind of experimenting with was that wood grain paper, the two-tone gray wood grain paper from Tim Holtz and Sizzix. That is just really, really fun to play with, to try and color, and then, you know, just using it as is for Tree and Stump. So I enjoyed this make. I had a lot of fun with it, and I really loved working with this wood grain texture fade. It's just so amazing. When you get this, you're just gonna, I just can't get over it. It really looks like wood. So anyway, super fun little winter make. Thank you so much for coming along with me as I made this, and I hope that you have a super crafty day.